at the creation narratives, all right? Because I am going to ask you questions about this, all right? So, looking at the creation narratives, just as a summary, and this is at the beginning of the chapter. Oh yeah, plenty of light. Okay? Remember that when it comes to these, and I'm going to go with myths. If I offend you, too bad. When it comes to these myths, okay, there's either a specific date or a very specific length of time when this story takes place. Okay? In most of the creation narratives that I've read, that I've studied, the earth is only a few thousand years old. And once again, because I was raised in a Christian background, most Christian churches, whether it's Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Protestant, whatever, believe that the earth is only about 7,000 years old. Okay? Other groups, any narrative that I've looked at, the earth is never more than 10,000 years old. Okay, that's like the oldest they peg the earth. And no matter which creation narrative we look at, and hopefully the ones that you read, you were able to notice this, but we'll look at all of them. Humanity comes out like this, okay? Nothing, boom, your head, 2 arms, 2 legs, body, whatever, okay? As opposed to science, science tells us that the Big Bang happened billions of years ago. The universe took billions of years to create. When Earth is finally formed, okay, many of the things and changes, and I know we go through it in like 3 pages, but it happens over hundreds of millions of years, okay? So it's a process, all right? Changes happen over a long period of time. Things don't just appear, okay? Now, remember that the original purpose of religion, okay, was to explain these natural phenomenons, okay, that, for whatever reason, we didn't understand, okay? Today, it is going to be hot and humid, all right? A pretty gross, disgusting day. Maybe the sun god is just like, not in a good mood, all right? I don't know, Odin fell asleep and he won't wake up for at least a week. I don't know if he actually controls the weather, but I'm just going to throw that one out there, okay? And so, in this case, religion doesn't really start as a form of worship. I once had a student say, religion started so that they could control the people. Well, yeah, eventually that it becomes that. But its original purpose was to explain, out here. Okay, explain all of this to us. All right? And so, in this case, these creation stories attempt to explain, because remember, what are we thinking about? We're thinking about us, and we're thinking about our place in the universe, and what is our purpose in life, okay? We're no longer just, hunter-gathering, learning how to use tools, building a fire. No. Now, now that we have enough to eat, now that our population has grown, now that we have this society, all right, why are we here? What is the purpose of us waking up every morning, working, going to bed at night? You find a significant other, a partner, you have a family, and then the process repeats itself for our children, okay? And so in this case, trying to explain all of that, all right? And so in this case, when we look at these creation narratives, whether it's as an historian or a scientist or whatever, we're attempting to understand, okay, the culture. Not necessarily figure out how old the earth is or how it was created, okay? Which, once again, if I offend you, too bad. There are some people, there are some groups that really do try to explain the Earth's history using these spiritual stories, okay? When in reality, all it's really there for is for us to understand the culture that created those stories, okay? And so, all right, one of the things we should ask ourselves when we look at these narratives is, what do they tell us about this society? What do they tell us about what this society valued? And how did they see themselves in relationship to the universe? Okay? So, the 5 narratives. The first one, and I'm just going to give you like the summary version here. The first one is from India, and it's called The Sacrifice of Purusha. All right? Hopefully at least one of you did this one, okay, because I asked you to look at 2. All right, so if you did Purusha, all right, great. Who was Purusha? Purusha was one of the gods, one of the many gods of India. And of course, you cannot think of, let me back up. You have to remember that throughout history and most cultures, here's a P word that you need to remember. Most cultures were polytheistic, all right? What do we mean by polytheistic or polytheism? Right there.
Like multiple gods.
Yes, they believed in multiple gods, all right? There was a god for everything, all right? So Purusha was one of the gods, okay? Purusha was the lord of immortality. He was also in charge of food, so because of Purusha's good grace or goodwill, your crops grew, okay? A quarter of Purusha resides in earth. The rest of Purusha is in heaven. And for those of you that are like, what the hell? I remember being told, I guess I should throw this out really quick. My dad's cousin was a nun. All right, so I have a little bit more cynicism towards Catholicism than your average person, maybe. All right, because I got to see it up close, all right, in the form of my dad's cousin. I called her aunt, although technically she was my first cousin once removed. But anyways, that's besides the point. Wait, how does he live in, most of them is in heaven and only a quarter on? Well, I was told that God is so big, he covers a universe, but so small, he fits in your heart. Okay, so he's in my heart and the universe. I was kind of a smartass as a kid too. All right, so in this case though, Purusha has thousands of eyes, feet, body parts, etc., etc. Okay, so what happens? All right, the other gods get together and decide, you can be Purusha for this. Purusha, we're going to sacrifice you. We're going to kill you. All right, and they do. All right, and then they take Purusha's body, which once again has thousands of hands and arms and legs and eyes and heads and all of this other stuff. So it's not like a bipedal being. All right, and break it up. They cut it up into different pieces. Okay, and so parts of Purusha become chants and songs. Parts of Purusha become the different animals, and so that's why we have animals on the earth. Okay, and this is why certain animals in Indian culture are considered sacred, because where did they come from? One of the gods. Okay, so yes, you're not going to like eat part of the gods, all right, type of thing. Okay, now we will eventually get to Indian culture, all right, in a future chapter. But you should know that Indian culture is broken up into castes, all right? Every human is a part of a social group that the only way to escape it is to die and reincarnate, all right? And so this is the most basic. Now, depending on which versions you read, they use slightly different names, and so some of the names that I learned are like, the spell, because remember, we're translating something else into English, so the spellings are a little different and the designations are a little different, but the mouth of Purusha becomes the Brahmin. The Brahmin class is the upper high class in Indian culture, all right? They're the ones that are the richest and rule everything. They're basically the priests and the ruling class. The arms become Rajanya. In some cases, I actually learned it as Kshatriya. All right, so if I say Kshatriya, that's what I mean. They're the warrior class. Okay, so the arms become the warrior class. Okay, the next part of Purusha, his thighs, become the Vaishyas. All right, the Vaishyas are the artisans, the people that the smiths, the ones that build carts, the ones that make things. All right, and then finally the feet become the Shudra. The Shudra are at the very bottom. They are the unskilled labor. Okay, the ditch diggers, the ones that build things that doesn't require any technical training. Now, eventually, I couldn't find one without this. This doesn't happen for a couple thousand more years. They actually create an even lower class known as the untouchables, or I learned the word pariah, but this picture that I stole from Google uses Dalits. Okay, but that wasn't part of the original creation. That comes later. All right, so just kind of ignore this part. All right, but they cut up the god, and the different parts of this god become the different people, all right, that are on the planet. Okay, and of course some of the other things. Okay, his mind became the moon, his eyes become the sun, the mouth becomes other gods, and blah, blah, blah. And in this case, the feet become the earth, and the head became heaven. And sometimes people are like, wait, Santos, but I thought the feet became the Shudra. Well, how many feet does Purusha have? Thousands. Yeah, so don't worry, there's enough feet to go around, all right, to create all of these different things. Okay? The important thing, though, is that the parts of Purusha that become human, all right, here's our member of the upper class, the priest class, the ruling class. Here's our member of the warrior class. Okay. Here's our member of the working class, the artisans, the people that make things. And here is our unskilled labor class. All right. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, a body. All right. None of this, you were a monkey and then you evolved into Abby. All right, no, okay, everyone was formed the way they are and put into the social class that you were meant to be put in. Now, when we study India, we'll learn that yes, you live your life, you perform your duty, you die, you reincarnate, and if you've been a good, unskilled laborer, you just might get to advance into the artisan class, and so on, and eventually reaching the upper class, all right, the Brahmin. Right? So, questions, comments? Like I said, we're doing the quick version. All right? Now, once again, I apologize, but I'm just going to assume that most people were raised in some kind of Christian tradition, especially if you're from the United States, because that's basically, the de facto belief that most people have. And I know there's some of you that are, either Jewish or Muslim or some other faith, okay? But the next account that they put in here is from Genesis in the Bible, all right? Just so that you know, all right? And once again, you can go to your priest, your pastor, your whatever, all right? Nobody sat down and started the Bible, part 1. All right, and then start. No, okay. Basically, various Jewish scholars brought these different accounts together, all right, and collected them into a volume, all right. The current creation story, if you're interested, you can find it at the very beginning of the Bible in Genesis. That current story is from about the 6th century BCE. So in this case, 500 BCE. All right, 2,500 years old. Okay, supposedly, even if you do believe that the Earth is 7,000 years old. Okay, we're getting an account that came 5,000 years after the actual fact. All right, so it's a little sus. Okay, it was part of the Hebrew scriptures, which later become adopted by Christians. All right, they take the Old Testament. All right, and so just a quick breakdown of what Genesis tells us. Day 1, let there be light. God separates light from darkness. Boom. Okay, because it was all dark. Now there's light, now there's dark. Okay? On the second day, God creates the heaven and the water. Okay, no earth yet, so now there's water down here, there's heaven up here. Okay? On day 3, God now creates land. Okay, so now we have earth, we have water, we have heaven, there's light. Okay? In addition to the land, God creates all plants and all fruits. So here we have the trees, here we have the grass, here we have all of that. Oh, the one thing I forgot, okay? The Hebrew religion was one of the weird ones in ancient times because they were monotheistic, okay? If polytheistic or polytheism means multiple gods, what is mono? One. Okay, they were one of very, very small group that truly only believed in a singular God. Okay, so that's why I have this right there. Okay? On the fourth day, God creates the sun, the moon, and the stars. Okay, so where that original light came from and where the darkness was, literally no clue. But it isn't until the fourth day now that we have a big yellow thing, a small whitish thing, or half white, half black, depending how you look at it and which phase. And of course, little twinkly things. All right. On day 5, we get fishes and birds. All right, so dump a bunch of fish in the water and let other things fly around. Okay, finally on day 6, all of the land animals are created. Okay, in addition to the land animals, God creates humanity. Okay, and humanity is this. Well, probably a better looking version of this, but this. Okay, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, a body. All right, so masculine, male, okay, and female. Okay, and of course they're told, humans, you're in charge of the entire planet. All right, this is all yours. What happens on the 7th day? Yeah, okay, because creating the universe is apparently exhausting. All right, so you take a nap. All right, so boom. All right, that's the creation story in Genesis. Most Christian faiths that I've looked at, they're the ones that, the earth is 7,000 years and that's it. Okay, anything that you may think came before that is either your imagination or literally my cousin the nun. That's just the devil trying to trick you. All right, with like dinosaur bones and shit. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. Let's look at China now, okay? One of the creation myths from China, all right? From the Huananzi, okay? In the beginning, all right, there's emptiness, and the universe appears. It's there, okay? And the universe creates what is called the material force. All right, if you're a Star Wars nerd like me, and if you just want to call it the Force, go right ahead. But the Force is created. Okay. Now, this material force kind of breaks up into different elements. All right, the clear and the light creates heaven. It becomes, the heavens, whereas the heavy and the turbid creates the earth. Right? And so we begin to see then that everything on earth and in the universe has its opposite and creates its opposite. Okay? For every good, you have bad. For every light, you have dark. For every heavy, you have light, not light, but light and weight. Okay? Etc., etc. And so this becomes known as the idea, the concept, and maybe some of you have heard of it, the yin and the yang. Okay? Basically, the universe is created in perfect harmony. All right? With everything having its opposite. All right? It is most clearly illustrated. Oh, hold on. By that drawing. Okay? Everything in balance, everything in harmony. Okay? You have the light, you have the dark. You have the wet, you have the dry. You have the cold, you have the heat. Okay? And everything creates the universe as a whole and balances out. Oops, no way. There we go. Okay? And so, And these are just examples then of the various opposites, all right? Yin and yang become the different seasons, okay? We have summer, the warmth, all right? We have fall, the cooling. We have winter, the cold. We have spring, the warming. And then, of course, then we go back to the hot, all right? So it becomes the seasons, it becomes the various elements, the various animals, okay? For every predator, you have prey, all right? For every flying animal, you have one that crawls on land, all right? And so on. The hot force, okay? Remember, this is all part of the great universal force, all right? But the hot portion of it becomes fire and the sun, all right? The cold force becomes water and the moon. And I guess it kind of makes sense because, you know, the moon controls the tides of the ocean and, you know, that's the water. And the sun, you know, everything else, you know, brings us heat and warmth and crops to grow, and you have to have water for crops. And so everything has its place, okay? And so basically the belief that the universe was created in harmony, somehow we've fallen away from that, all right? And so our purpose is to try to put everything back in its order, all right? And when we talk more about Chinese philosophy and Chinese religion, that struggle then also becomes a personal one, all right? Bringing harmony and balance into our own lives the way we're trying to bring harmony and balance into the universe, all right? But basically that's how it starts. That's how the earth is created, okay? And so everything, all right, is considered the great oneness, okay? And so because of this, all right, all of us have little bits of this yin and yang, all right? And so for everything that lives, you have an equal amount of things that die, okay? And that is why, you know, humans, I know I put man, but sorry, ladies, all right? But it includes all humanity, all right? Yes, that's why you're alive for a certain amount of time. You were created from the universe. When you die, you return to the universe, and somebody else is born to take your place, okay? So everything in balance, everything in harmony. And so in this case, why was humanity created? To keep the universe in balance, okay? We're part of that great balancing act, okay? So yeah, all right? Now, this one's actually my favorite. It's one that I shouldn't say I had to study. I got to study when I was getting my history degree. And that is the Popol Vuh. It is a Mayan myth. The Maya lived in both Mexico and Central America, okay? And I love it because humans were created out of corn. I know, right? We're all just a bunch of walking corn stalks for the most part. All right? So, once again, the gods, in this case, the Maya were polytheistic. Specifically, Tepeu and Gukumats, all right? They get together, all right? And decide, you know what? It's just been us gods for long enough. We need to create people, all right? There needs to be people on this earth. And so they decide to create them, okay? And so what they do is they call the other gods together. All right, rest of you gods, all right, we're going to have a meeting. In addition, some of the other things like the stars and the animals and the moon and all of this other stuff, y'all are invited too. We need your opinion, okay? We need to create people, all right? So, they're in this meeting, okay? And the animals that were invited bring different types of corn, okay? And so the gods decide, you know what, the animals have a point. We should probably create humans out of corn, all right? And so there's different kinds of corn, so we get different kinds of people, all right? And so different parts of corn, and they do different things with it. They liquefy part of it, so that becomes humanity's blood. They ground the rest of it up, and that becomes our muscles, okay? They make cornmeal, which if you take ground up corn and you add some water, you get like flour. That becomes the bones and other parts of you know, the humans. And with all of this, 4 humans, there's 4 original humans are created, okay? And so I can pause here for a minute and ask you, what do you think was really important to the Maya? Corn, yes. All right, and just FYI, yeah, corn is a Native American invention from the groups that lived in Mexico and Guatemala and those areas. So, you know, when you enjoy a tub of popcorn, I'll just say you're welcome for my people and my ancestors. Or, you know, when you go to Taco Bell, you're welcome also, all right, for the crunchy shells and the nachos and all of that stuff, all right? But yes, corn was an important part of Mayan culture. It still is, all right? It still is, okay? Now, you don't need to remember their names, all right? But the 4 men that were created, okay, Balam Kitse, Balam Akab, Mahukuta, all right, even Iki Balam, all right? Yeah, I had to memorize these for a test once, don't worry, all right? I didn't need them afterwards. But those are the 4 men that are created, and from them comes the rest of humanity, okay? And once again, like in most creation stories, 2 arms, 2 legs, fully grown. They were smart, they were intelligent, they could speak, they had skills, you know, all of that stuff, all right? So nothing like we started off as, you know, monkeys and, you know, boom, evolution. No, that's how they were created, okay? And of course, the corn people are grateful to the gods for having created them, all right? And so they worship the gods and offered them thanks. Okay, so I like to kid around that, you know, yeah, there's yellow corn, there's white corn, there's the darker corn. That's got different shades here, all right, you know. Sorry, white corn, you know, yellow corn, all right, I'm that burnt corn, all right, you know, stuff like that, all right, and it makes perfect sense, all right, according to the Popol Vuh, all right. Like I said, one of my favorite ones. The last one, okay, is the myth of the Yoruba. The Yoruba were a tribe from West Africa. Okay, so this is just one of many African creation stories. It starts off with the sky. We have like the earth divided into the sky, and then we just have like water and marsh in the rest of you know, if you want to call it earth, you can, okay? Olorun, okay, is the sky god, whereas Olokun is the god of the water and marsh, the god of the below, all right? Obatala, third god, decides, okay, we need more than just sky and water and marshy places, so he creates dry land, okay? And basically says, you know what? Obviously, we need this dry land, and now that we have it, okay, we need people. All right? So, we have the sky, we have water and marsh, we have gods that are in charge of those, and then we have a third god, Obatala, who decides to create the earth, dry land, and now we got to put people in. Okay, so what does he do? All right, I always enjoy this one too. Obatala takes a gold chain. All right, need a gold chain to create people, obviously. He finds a snail and takes its shell and then fills it with sand. So you need a chain, you need sand. Okay, he finds a white hen. Okay, a black cat and a palm nut. All right, all elements necessary in making people. Then what he does is he uses the chain and he climbs down to the earth that he's created and begins to pour, you know, sand everywhere. All right. Then he releases the hen. Okay. And wherever the hen pecks, all right, those are the different lands, those are the different islands, those are the different like continent groups. Yeah, works for me. All right. It's about as logical as anything else. Okay. Now, he then digs a hole, all right? Takes the palm nut, puts it in there, covers up the hole, and a palm tree grows, all right? So now we have a palm tree, all right? Now, each of these palm trees has nuts, and so then he takes those nuts, plants those, and so eventually he gets a forest of palms. Okay? Now, what is the cat for, you like to ask? That's just his companion, all right? He's a cat person, Obatala, so keeps him company, all right? Because, creating the earth and creating palm groves is kind of boring after a while, so now he has his cat to play with, all right? Now, what happens, though, is that as he starts to create people, he uses sand and clay, and so now we're creating humans. But along the way, he starts drinking, and he gets drunk. But this does not stop him from creating people, even though he's, totally shit-faced, all right? And so this is used to explain why people are imperfect and why we are the way we are, because who were we created by? A drunk God, okay? And the story just says imperfections, okay? This could be like, personality, this could be physical, this could be like, what we call, I guess, toxic people today. That's why we are the way we are, because a drunk God created us, okay? So, yeah, no, don't blame me for ghosting you. That was, Obatala got drunk. That's just my personality now. Type of thing, all right? Now, humanity grows, okay? People begin to build huts and develop a civilization, okay? They have their villages and whatnot, okay? Now, back to Olokun. Remember, Olokun is the god of the marshes and the water, okay? He decides, just for the heck, I'm just giving you the summary. There's a reason, but he decides to flood the earth, okay? And so people begin to pray and beg and cry like, you're killing us, dude. We're drowning. We can't survive this. Okay? Another god named Ishu comes to the people and says, if you sacrifice to me, if you follow me, okay, I'll make it stop. All right? And so he's able to convince another god, Orunmila, to stop the rains, to stop the flood. All right? And then humanity lives happily ever after. Well, not really, but, okay? One of the other things and one of the reasons why this is included, even though we don't see it in the Mayan or in the Indian legend or in the Chinese legend, there's a lot of creation stories that involve a flood, okay? Like a worldwide flood or some kind of deluge. We will look at the Mesopotamian, okay, the Fertile Crescent one, the story of Gilgamesh, which is another myth, whatever, that also involves a flood and the survival of only a small group of people. So it's kind of interesting the way all of these myths have some similarities. But that's it for today. If you have your assignment, feel free to leave it right here. If you don't, like I said, 11:59.